Okay, you're struggling with mounting debt. Do you think liquidation is the only way out for your business? Well, think again. Now, across the UK, businesses just like you are finding a way to not just survive through the hard times, but thrive and get out the other end. Now, a company voluntary arrangement or a CVA, it could be the lifeline that your business needs to keep trading while tackling debt head on. It's not just about staying afloat, it's about setting the foundation for growth and recovery down the line. Now, in this video, I'm going to break down everything that you need to know about CVAs, how they work, who they're for, and most importantly, how they could save your company's future. Please stick with me, it could be the turning point that your business needs. Listen, before we dive in, make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications. I release videos every couple of days with actionable advice to help UK business owners just like you make informed decisions about insolvency, debt management and business recovery. Remember, my name is Chris Worden. I'm from Director First. So, what is a CVA and how does it work? We're going to start with the basics. Now, a CVA or Company Voluntary Arrangement, it's for businesses that are struggling with debt but still has the potential to recover. Now, what a CVA is a legally binding agreement between a company and its creditors that allows the company to repay its debts over a fixed period, usually between 3 and 5 years, and it's based on what your business can realistically afford. It's like hitting the pause button on creditor pressure so you can restructure the finances and get back on track, okay? Now, in plain English, a CVA is a deal. You're basically saying to your creditors, look, can't pay everything we owe right now, but we can pay you something if you give us time and a little bit of breathing room, okay? Now, really, when a business is insolvent, if it goes through a liquidation process, creditors are going to get very little. So it's more of a win-win scenario. Creditors get more than they would from a liquidation, and your business gets a chance to recover and keep trading. Now, you might wonder, well, why would a creditor agree to a CVA? And the answer is simple. In a CVA, a creditor often gets more money through the CVA than they would if your company goes into liquidation. Because in liquidation, you know, a company might not have any assets. If it has no assets, creditors will get very little. But even if it has assets and they're sold off, they're often sold off at a significant loss. And creditors will typically receive pennies on the pound. Whereas a CVA, it gives them a better return and it allows your business to stay alive. So I've been involved with countless CVAs over the years, but there was one that I remember, a logistics company owed about 300 grand to suppliers in HMRC. Now, through the CVA, they negotiated to repay 180,000 of the 300,000 over 5 years. Now, the creditors agreed because it offered a better outcome than liquidation. Because in liquidation, this firm's, all the vehicles were, financed up to the hilt. They wouldn't have got anything in a liquidation. So getting 180 grand, although it's over 5 years, as opposed to nothing, it's a good deal. Now, here, I want to try and explain to you how a CVA works step by step, okay? Now, the step one is, we've got to assess your company's financial health, okay? We've got to really understand where you are financially, and this will involve reviewing cash flows, debts, assets, basically identifying who your key creditors are and exactly what they're owed. And we've got to determine that if you did a CVA, has your business got a viable future once the debt's restructured? And this is where an insolvency practitioner comes in, because we're going to need them to help assess whether the CVA is the right option for your business or not. Now, once you've figured out whether this may work, you've got to engage in a licensed insolvency practitioner. You have to get a licensed IP to do this for you. You can't propose a CVA on your own back. What the IP does is They act as like an intermediary between you and the creditors, like the deal maker, if you will, and they ensure that the proposal is fair but also realistic. Now, the IP's role is crucial because what they do is they help create a plan that in an ideal world the creditors will approve, okay? The insolvency practitioner is going to examine your company's financial records. They are going to, with you and your accountant, calculate how much you can afford to repay. And once all that's done, and it can take some weeks, a proposal is drafted. And the insolvency practitioner writes a formal document outlining the repayment plan, okay? Now, a lot of the time, your payment plan will include reduced payments or debt forgiveness. And you might start off, your repayments might be here because your cash flow doesn't allow you to pay up here. And as the CVA goes on, your payments can increase. Now, at that stage when the proposal goes out, sometimes it's time for negotiation. So the insolvency practitioner will negotiate with the creditors and try and address any of their concerns and sort of secure their support. Because once this has gone on, the next step is to submit the proposal to the creditors. You know, once it's ready, it gets submitted to all the creditors for approval. And this is super critical. Because for a CVA to be approved, creditors, 75% of creditors need to approve the CVA, okay? And if the CVA is approved, it becomes legally binding for all the creditors, including those who voted against it. Now, I want to answer the question, what will happen if a creditor rejects the CVA? Because if your creditors reject it, and you don't secure 75% of approval, your options become more limited and you may need to start exploring other insolvency solutions, and that could be an administration or it could be a liquidation. And that's why it's vital to work with an experienced insolvency professional who can help you craft a compelling proposal, okay? Now let's assume that the proposal's been accepted. You've then got to implement the proposal, okay? And you're going to begin repaying debts according to the agreed schedule. And the insolvency practitioner is with you for the long haul on this, and they're going to oversee the whole process to ensure compliance. Now, here's what will change during that period. When your CVA is approved and you're in the CVA, creditor pressure stops. It's a big relief to people. A creditor cannot take legal action or demand immediate repayment as long as you stick to the CVA terms. Now, obviously, when you're in your CVA, you can keep trading. The business continues operating and it gives you the chance to rebuild and stabilise, okay? So it's not for everybody a CVA, but if you meet the criteria, which I'm going to come on to later on, it can be an absolute lifesaver. And at the end of the CVA, obviously the CVA is complete. You know, any remaining debt's written off, and in an ideal world, the company will emerge in a much stronger financial position, okay? And then you go again, you know, it's all in the past. Now, it's got to be spoken about sort of what's going to happen to you as a director during a CVA. Because one of the biggest advantages is that if you do a CVA, you're still in control. You're in the hot seat, you're making the decisions. Whereas liquidation, the business ends, administration, the administrator's in charge. In a CVA, you're still in control. But you've got to stick to your responsibilities during the CVA. And first thing is, you've got to stick to the repayment plan. You have got to make sure your business pays that money every month that's been outlined in the CVA. You're going to have to maintain accurate records, detailed financial records, and that's to show creditors that your company's on track. And the insolvency practitioner is going to review things regularly. It brings me on to this, is you've got to work closely with the IP. Now, when you're choosing an insolvency practitioner, to look at doing a CVA for you, you've got to get on with them. You've got to be sure that they're capable, because some firms are no good at CVAs. Some firms are absolutely suited for them. So not absolutely everybody that you see out there on Google is going to be a good fit for you. Because, do you know, if you don't comply, CVA can get terminated. Now, if this happens, creditors, they'll resume legal action. Your business will probably get forced into liquidation. It'll get wound up. So it's so important that you take the process seriously. You've got to stay committed. Now, there are a lot of misconceptions out there about CVAs, and I want to sort of clear up a few of them. And the first thing is, a CVA means I lose my business. Bollocks. CVA is designed to help you keep your business running while addressing debt issues. Another misconception is creditors won't agree to a CVA. Not always true. Like, most creditors will prefer a CVA because it offers a better return than a liquidation. Another thing that directors think is this CVA is a magic bullet, it's going to solve everything instantly. Sadly, that's not true. It's a tool. It's not a magic wand. It requires commitment and discipline to succeed. Now, as with all things insolvency, if you're considering a CVA, the idea might sound good, but you need to check whether it's right for you, okay? If you want to learn more, give us a bell, 0800 086 2766, or you can book a free consultation in the links below. Again, early action makes all the difference. I'm going to talk to you sort of a bit more about the step-by-steps of the CVA process for those that are still watching, okay? I'm going to break it down, because this section is all about making the complex a little bit more simple, so at the end you know exactly what to expect and you can approach each stage with a bit of knowledge. So again, step one, you will speak to an insolvency professional, okay? It's critical because it's the professional who's going to determine whether the CVA is viable for you, okay? Now at this stage we're going to review everything, the financial health of the company. We need to see absolutely everything, okay? And we need to make a call as to whether or not you're going to survive this. Now, there are some firms out there, right, who are going to try and shoehorn you into a CVA when it's not the right thing for you. Because commercially, they're quite good for insolvency practitioners because they'll get paid a nominee's fee at the start and they get paid a supervisor's fee for every year that you're in a CVA. It's not for everybody. Sometimes an insolvency like a liquidation or an administration is going to be a better option for your business, okay? But to help you make that decision, the key thing is to get all the information that we need. We need to know your financials, and if they're not up to date, we've got to get them up to date as soon as humanly possible, okay? Again, what do I think a CVA is really helpful for? Well, I think a CVA is helpful for, I don't know, like say hauliers. Hauliers have O licenses, so they can't just liquidate and start again. What a CVA allows them to do is to sort of pause the business, continue with the O license, get back on a firm financial footing. It's good for people in care. You know, if there's a CQC in place, if you liquidate, you lose the CQC. If you've got big assets in the business, you might have property in the business, and obviously a liquidation, all that property would be lost. But it's not for everybody, okay? It really isn't. Now, let me give you some tips for a strong proposal, okay? You've got to be transparent. Do not hide any financial details. You know, your creditors need honesty, as does the insolvency practitioner. You've got to be realistic. Propose repayments your company can afford, okay? Now, in this proposal, you want to make sure that the IP is clearly explaining the benefits of the CVA, okay? You've got to go into salesman mode, okay? The people who are reading this are thinking, right, that there's a thing called a comparison statement. And the comparison statement on this side says how much you would get in liquidation and this, how much should you get in a CVA. So critically important to get this creditor approval. You've got to dot all the I's and cross all the T's, okay? It's sort of one chance to get yourself out of the mire. Now, again, when it comes to CVAs, it's so important that you shop around, you know, speak to more than one firm. Even if you're always speaking to us, listen, we might not be a good fit for you. You know, it's such a big decision when you're going into insolvency. I don't want you to rush into jump into bed with the first insolvency person that you speak to. Now, I want to finish on this, the benefits of what CVAs are. You know, that there's some unique advantages that make it an attractive option. Obviously, the biggest one is you continue trading. A liquidation means the business stops. A CVA allows you to keep trading. You retain your customers, revenue streams, employees keep their jobs, you preserve your reputation, okay? Obviously, and sometimes you can reduce the debt burden. A lot of CVAs involve reducing the total debt owed. Creditors may agree to write off a portion of debt in exchange for a restructured payment plan, okay? It does happen all the time, so I want you to look at what you can afford, you work with your accountant, with your insolvency practitioner, and from there you give the proposal. Remember, there's legal protection. Once you're in a CVA, once it's approved, the company gains legal protection and creditors cannot take legal action as long as you complain with the CVA, and the breathing space will allow you to focus on running your business without the constant pressure. I've touched on it before, you retain control. In a CVA, you remain control of your business, okay? It lets you manage daily operations as long as you adhere to the payment plan. And finally, better returns for creditors. A CVA will give creditors a better return than a liquidation, and it means that they're more likely to support it, okay? Wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't tell you what the challenges of the CVA is. Now, there are loads of benefits, but it's not without its challenges. We've got to get creditor approval, okay? Remember, to approve a CVA, you need 75% of your creditors, 75% of the total debt to agree to the proposal. Now, this can be challenging if the relationships are strained or if they doubt your company's ability to stick to a repayment plan, okay? HMRC, I think at the moment, are really sceptical about CVAs, especially if you've got a bad compliance history, okay? I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm just saying I've seen some CVAs get rejected where they were looking to get all the money back. When you're in a CVA, remember, you've got to be really disciplined in your finances, because once it's approved, you've got to adhere to the repayment schedule. If you miss any payments, it can invalidate the whole CVA, and then again, legal action can come, okay? I don't think everybody who's watching this, a CVA is going to be right for them. But if you want to take some advice, if you want to speak to somebody who's been doing this for years and years and helped thousands of businesses, we offer free and independent advice, okay? Call us 0800 086 2766, book a free consultation using the link, or even drop your details in and we'll get one of our team to call you back today. So thank you for your time. My name is Chris Worden. All the best. How long? 90.